Lumen point. Let's begin the breakdown. All right, let's talk about McLaren. They've got one of the absolute fastest cars on the Formula One grid. So why do they keep finding these incredible ways to lose? Well, today we're going to unpack a pretty sharp analysis that really gets to the heart of what's going wrong with the team in Papaya.
First things first, let's be crystal clear. On paper, this McLaren is a championship-winning car. No question about it. It's ridiculously fast, the tech is cutting edge, and they've got two of the best drivers out there. I mean, all the right ingredients are in the bowl, right?
And that right there is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If the car is a beast, what is going wrong? Well, according to the analysis we're digging into today, the problem isn't the machine, it's the people. It's the team itself.
This one quote. This is pretty much the key to this whole argument. It says you can bring a team out of the midfield, but you can't bring the midfield out of the team. And what's being suggested here is that McLaren's biggest issue, it's not engineering. No, it's psychology. It's a mindset that's kind of stuck in their own past.
Okay, so this brings us to our first section, what this analysis calls the McLaren paradox. And it's simple. They've got the speed of a top team, but the execution of a team stuck in the midfield. So what does that actually look like when the lights go out?
All right, Section 2, Midfield Habits on Track. This is where you see the first real signs of this midfield mentality, right where it counts the most, on the asphalt, during the race itself. You know, it's where the pressure is absolutely immense and where even the tiniest mistakes can have massive consequences.
And here's the thing. This is not a new problem. Not at all. The analysis points to a pattern of self-sabotage that goes back more than a decade. I mean, we're talking about everything from basic fueling mistakes that cause to pole position, all the way to completely botched strategy calls that just throw away guaranteed wins. It's a real history of fumbling the ball when the pressure is on. You want the perfect example of this paradox? Just look at the pit crew. On a good day, they are literally the fastest in the history of the sport. But then, when the race is on the line, that world record pace can just, poof, vanish, replaced by a painfully slow stop that costs them absolutely everything.
1.80 seconds. That's the world record. And it belongs to them. This is peak McLaren, right? This is the flawless, unbelievable execution that you know they're capable of.
And then there's this. 5.9 seconds. That's more than 4 seconds just gone, in the blink of an eye. And that is more than enough time to lose a Grand Prix. This massive gap between their best and their worst, that is what this analysis says is the core of the problem. Brilliant potential, but just bafflingly inconsistent.
So you have to ask, where do these on-track issues come from? Well, the analysis argues that you've got to look higher up the food chain. You have to look at the team's leadership, and specifically at CEO Zak Brown. This is what's being called the Zak Brown effect.
You know, Zak Brown has said it himself. He said, "The best thing I can do is not be a distraction, so I'm going to shut up." That's a direct quote. He says his job is just to let the team work. Seems like a simple enough goal, right?
Well, the analysis points out that his actions kind of tell a very different story. I mean, from calling out rival drivers to accusing other teams of cheating, the record shows this pattern of creating the exact kind of drama and headlines that he claims he wants to avoid.
And it goes deeper than just a few public comments. The analysis really shines a light on the Alex Palou lawsuit. And according to the court documents, it reveals this whole story of broken promises, serious mismanagement, and maybe most shockingly, an alleged attempt to hide evidence.
This right here, this is the alleged smoking gun from those court filings. A message, reportedly from Brown himself, telling staff to keep everything WhatsApp and then deletes. It just highlights this huge contradiction between the team's squeaky clean public image and, well, these alleged private actions. So moving on to our fourth point, a culture of contradiction. Because these examples, they aren't just one-offs. The analysis argues that they actually point to a much deeper issue, a culture of contradiction that seems to start at the very top and then just filters down through the whole team.
So what is this culture? The analysis has a great label for it. People pleasers who please no one. The whole idea is that the team tries so hard to maintain this good guy image, to treat everyone equally and keep everyone happy. But in doing that, they just end up being indecisive and inconsistent. And in the cutthroat world of Formula One, that just ends up frustrating everybody.
And you don't have to look very far to see this. Just look at how their own drivers are sometimes treated. Officially, the team has a strict policy of equality, but the evidence here suggests a different story. Just notice the contrast, right? One driver is told to calm down after on-track contact, while the other gets no warning at all. One is given direct orders, the other is asked to decide strategy for his teammate. This kind of inconsistency is a textbook example of that people-pleasing culture in action.
And again, this habit of shooting themselves in the foot, it's not new. The analysis points to this legacy of major scandals at the absolute worst moments. We're talking about Spygate back in 07, Ligate in 09, and even getting disqualified during a recent super tight title fight. There is a long history of this team being its own worst enemy.
All right, so we've looked at the mistakes on track, the leadership, the team culture. So what's the final verdict from this analysis? Let's wrap this up with our conclusion. Midfield champions?
Really, it all boils down to this single idea. They have a top-tier, championship-level car that's being held back by midfield-level execution. The speed is there, 100%, but the mentality? It feels like it's stuck in a different era.
And this leads us to the final and pretty brutal verdict of this analysis. McLaren are midfield champions. In other words, they're the best of the rest. But they're lacking that ruthless consistency, that flawless execution you absolutely need to win when it really truly matters.
So that just leaves us with one final, crucial question to think about. A fast car is great, but is it enough? Can the team ever truly escape these habits that have held them back for so long? Or, at the end of the day, will McLaren's greatest rival always be itself?
Fuel your curiosity. Subscribe for the explanation. Stay for the knowledge.